overwhelmingly, the public want to be part of the solution. You know, businesses, individuals, households, families want to be part of doing the right things and just having a scheme in place to let us make that happen. Now, this DRS was a commitment in Plaid Cymru's manifesto back in the 2016 election. I think that there is a consensus politically that this needs to be fixed, that this needs to happen. We'll come on to it in a minute about some of the more unfortunate ways in which politics has got in the way, perhaps in other parts of the UK, and how we need to avoid that happening, because this is more important than that kind of thing, for goodness sake. But a Welsh Government Commission report back in 2018 by an environmental consultancy, Eunomia, recommended that Welsh Government should work with the UK Government on a UK-wide extended producer responsibility packaging across all packaging types, but develop its own approach if that wasn't sufficiently ambitious. Now, what's happened in Scotland, I think, is the warning sign, the bogeyman that's in the room for all of us at the moment. And I'm sure that this history will be very familiar, but in case it isn't to anyone in the room, December 2021, the Scottish Government announced that it would be launching the UK's first DRS for drinks brought in single-use containers made of plastic, steel, aluminium and glass. Now, the Scottish Government asked for an exclusion for the DRS from the UK Internal Market Act as part of a broad request that was made in 2021. An exclusion was only agreed on single-use plastics then, so the Scottish Government considered the need for exclusion for the DRS in October of the next year. A decision on the further exclusion was not forthcoming from the UK Government, so the Scottish Government delayed the DRS's launch until March 2024. The UK Government announced in May that it would agree to a temporary exclusion for Scotland's DRS, but that it wouldn't include glass products. And that has been the sticking point for us ever since. That would bring the scope of the DRS in line with the UK Government's plans for England. And the UK Government wants there to be, and they've said, maximum alignment. Now, the danger that we all are aware of for Wales, for all parts of the UK, is that doing something which is so essential for our environment, but again, for public buy-in, for people to feel that there's agency and that there are things that we can and are able to do to help our environment to tackle the climate and nature emergencies. The fact that that has been hindered by constitutional wrangling and by arguments over whose turf is whose, I think that that is dismaying. And I'm not making a party political point here, because I think that this is just dismaying outside of party politics. We have to do everything that we can to make the scheme in Wales as ambitious as possible, but for heaven's sake, it needs to get sorted out so that we don't throw something so vitally important away with the Brexit bathwater. But I will stop being political here. But you know, we all know why Wales desperately needs a deposit return scheme based on really compelling evidence that's been put forward by Keep Wales Tidy and others. But Keep Wales Tidy's survey of over 3,000 streets between April 2023 and January of this year revealed that really starkly alarming rates of drinks litter. 43.6% of streets were affected, so nearly half of our streets. And you know, when we go, not just walking in our streets, when we go, I love going for walks at the weekend in the countryside near where I live and up on mountains, and just our beautiful landscapes are being maligned with this rubbish and with this litter. We need a scheme so that people know what to do with it, and again, to empower people, because I really think that the vast majority of people, as I say, they want to do the right thing. It's just at the moment it's so easy either to do the wrong thing deliberately or to do the wrong thing through ignorance, through just lack of knowing what it is to do. I think empowering people and making people feel that they have a stake in this, that this isn't just something that the government is telling them to do, that this isn't something which an external force is telling them to do, empowering it so that it feels like it's something that is coming from the public and our own agency. I think that is something which is so powerful, which is why this is so important. Now, again, the prevalence of drinks litter varies across different counties, ranging, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong with these figures, from almost 20% in one county to 86.1% of streets affected in another county. I don't have those names here, so I'm not going to name and shame. But aluminium cans is the most common types of drinks, litter, and additionally, the occurrence of glass bottles has more than doubled apparently over the past 4 years. Now, we know where the trends are taking us. We know where this is going to be if we don't do something. I think that what's so vitally important now is that we take advantage of the real sense of political will, of public appetite for this change, that we actually give people the tools to be able to do something that they want so desperately to be able to do. And I know that you're going to be hearing from, I keep wanting to say Minister, Cabinet Secretary, Cabinet Secretary Huw Irranca-Davies, and I really hope that he will be a champion on this, because this is something that he's spoken very favourably of in the past. I really believe that he will be a champion for this. So I think he will be a great person in government to be forcing this issue, because we really do. I mean, the days of asking, I think, are behind us. We need to be forcing issues like this so that we actually demand that this change comes about. And you're going to be hearing from wonderful speakers this afternoon. I'm only sorry that I'm afraid, because of plenary and because I've agreed at the last minute to do a couple of interviews, and this was the only slot that we had available. I'm so sorry that I'm not going to be here, but I've been informed that that actually this is going to be recorded, and so you are actually going to be on camera. Oh God, and I just remind myself as I'm kind of gesticulating wildly that I'm being recorded. Hi. Sorry for my gestures all the time. I was told to just sit on your hands. Oh, I can't do it. So I'm going to be watching back, and that sounds very menacing. I meant that nicely. I'm looking forward to hearing it just later than everyone else. But thank you so much to everyone in this room for showing the leadership that is so required, that is so welcome, and to the volunteers and people who are working on this across different sectors and on the ground, literally on the ground, for goodness sake. This would not be happening without you, so thank you so much. I'm going to leave you in Owen's very capable hands, and I'm sorry again that I'm going to be watching this at a time lag later on, and I will wave to myself again that I'm going to be watching later. That's very weird, isn't it? Diolch yn fawr iawn, thank you so much.
Deposit return schemes just work, and they work really, really well. So they're successful in reducing litter, not just of drinks containers, and we know there is an issue there, but actually a reduction in litter overall as well. And it's in the immediate impact that we do tend to see when these schemes are rolled out. And that isn't just because of the financial incentive, but because it changes behaviours, and it changes the way that we think about litter and the way that we think about waste. We also know that DRS increases the quality of material captured for recycling. I know that we've got some colleagues here who are particularly interested in that side of it. Something that's essential if we're to realise the transition to the circular economy that we want to see and achieve in Wales. Some of you will know about the national litter surveys that Delyth alluded to. We've been running them since 2007, 2008-ish, and they are national surveys where we track the cleanliness of our streets and capture a limited amount of compositional data as well. And we do tend to spot emerging trends. A couple of them we've already heard about. But the one thing that is incredibly clear is if we carry on this trajectory, the problem isn't going to get better, it's going to get very much worse. So we do need that step change in approach, and I think DRS absolutely represents that. So at the minute, as we sort of sit here, there's around a third of Welsh streets that have drinks-related litter on them right now. So that's about 60,000 containers lying on pavements and roadsides in our communities, and that doesn't actually include parks and beaches where they can make up around 94%-ish of the litter that we find there. So it's staggering numbers, to be honest, and it's a real issue. And I could bombard you with stats, and I'd probably have a lovely time doing that as well. But instead, we thought it might be best to ask our groups to tell us about the problem in their own words and whether they thought a deposit return scheme would make a difference. So this short video, which you'll see in a little bit, is just a small snapshot of our many thousands of dedicated volunteers who undertake litter picking across the country. What's more, is all the footage has been gathered in the past 2 weeks, so rest assured this provides a real-time picture of the problem that our volunteers see on a daily basis.
We're up in the top of Dowlais with a fantastic community group from Dowlais and Plant Action community group. They come out every Tuesday doing litter picks around Merthyr. Some of the issues we have been talking about is the plastic and can waste around it, and you pretty much guarantee when groups like this are out and about, at least 50%, if not more, the waste they are collecting is cans and plastics. As you can see in this bush by here now, we've got, it's literally just cans.
Hi, my name is Rosa from the Eco Warriors of Bran in South Wales, Cwmbran. I had heard of the deposit return scheme, but I didn't really know which containers and items that people would be able to return. So I had heard of it, but I didn't know the details of it really. I feel like hopefully the same as the carrier bag scheme, it might create a bit of a culture change as much as anything. It might stop people from doing certain activities. Like I feel like a lot of people throw bottles and cans out of their car window, for example. So we've got a few sort of single carriageways, and you can always see things on the side of the road there where people have just slung them out of their car. So hopefully in that sense it might reduce it. Also, where I live, there are a lot of waterways and a lot of woodland areas. We get a lot of stuff in those areas as well that's blown there or been thrown there. So hopefully the waterways would be a bit clearer, because I do feel like with the waterways there's a lot more of the plastic bottles in waterways, also cans, rather than our general picking area, which are woodland areas.
Hello, my name's Helena. I'm a Keep Well Tidy champion litter picker, as well as being part of a group, the Celtic Horizons litter picking group. I live in Dyffryn and the Coedcernu area. It's quite a diverse area because we have plenty of green, which is lovely, but we are actually sandwiched between 2 comprehensive schools, an Asda and a Tesco's, a business park, lots of estates, so you can imagine the amount of litter that's generated here. Unfortunately, most of the litter that we get is thrown out of car windows, so it's lots of cans and bottles. The deposit return scheme, in our eyes as litter pickers, would be a huge road forward into trying to limit the amount of plastic and cans that we see, as you saw, every week. So those bags that you saw that I videoed are a weekly occurrence. So on average, I can pick up between 8 and 10 bags per week. So if we didn't do it, we'd be wading knee deep in plastic cans and bottles.
Plastic bottles, cans. So here we've got bubble wrap, polystyrene containers, motor oil carton. So yet another trolley, and some bits and bobs inside. Again, packaging, plastic bag, an energy drink can, food cartons, dog poop bag, and a bin right there.
There you go. I love the creativity in some of those shots as well, by the way. I think they were really thought through. But I think the thing that you can, just to leave you with, it is a staggering impact. And, you know, if DRS can go any way to improving that situation, then I think we're onto something positive. So with that, I'm now going to hand over to Jenny Huw. I'm going to get your title right this time. UK and Ireland Director at Reloop. It's going to talk us through, thank you very much. It's going to talk us through some of the issues.
Hi everybody, I'm Jenny, Reloop's UK and Ireland Director. Reloop's an international organisation, and we work with governments, industry and the third sector to lead the global transition to a circular economy. Thanks. For all resources. We do, however, have specific expertise in deposit return systems for drinks containers, and so we've been following the progress of this policy across the UK with great interest. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon, with special thanks to our speakers whose expertise I'm really looking forward to hearing. So our team has worked in the UK on the issue of deposit return systems since 2008, and for much of that time we've worked alongside Keep Wales Tidy and Friends of the Earth Cymru, who we're pleased to be partnering with today. The Welsh Government's intention to introduce deposits alongside parallel systems planned for Scotland, England and Northern Ireland is a reform, as we know, that's essential for boosting economic, social and environmental well-being up and down the country. A few weeks ago I had the chance to visit Dublin and see the brand new Irish deposit return system for myself, and having worked on this policy here for almost 10 years, it felt exciting to just walk into a shop and see people returning their empties as though they'd been doing it for their whole lives. I found it really easy to return my empty bottle in an RVM, and as I walked around the city I saw almost no littered plastic bottles and cans. So whilst Ireland are still in their initial transition phase, Return, the system operator, has already collected more than 20 million containers, and that's in the space of 3 months, so it's incredible. Meanwhile, Poland, Greece, Austria and Portugal are all gearing up to start their systems within the next 18 months. And the system proposed for Wales will match the ambition of other recently started European systems. So in the last few years alone, we've seen systems launch in Latvia, Slovakia, Romania, Malta and Hungary. And all of these new systems, except Slovakia, include PET plastic, cans, as well as, crucially, glass bottles. Of course, Wales already has an impressive record for recycling, with a national average of 65.7% and just 1.6% of waste being sent to landfill. So it's impressive. And the lower hanging fruit has been tackled. And so quite sensibly, policymakers have committed to a comprehensive scheme that includes all drinks products in all sizes of container, sold in a broad range of materials. At Reloop, every 2 years we publish our global deposit book, which collates data from more than 40 deposit return schemes worldwide. And that data shows that a well-designed deposit return scheme can bring collection rates of drinks containers up to 90%. So without deposits, there's no other proven system that can bridge this gap, which is why extended producer responsibility policies on their own simply can't achieve the same results. As I'm sure you know, under EU law, 77% of plastic bottles must now be collected separately, and this is going to rise to 90% by 2029. So the planned deposit return scheme will ensure that Wales keeps apace as other countries reach 90% recycling rates, and we're now in an absolutely critical window for delivery in order to prevent Wales and the rest of the UK from falling behind these European countries. Welsh policymakers have also recognised that since deposit return is a form of producer responsibility, the current cost of recovery and recycling will shift from local authorities back to producers, and this will save councils money and incentivise producers to minimise their costs. Many deposit return schemes in the world include infrastructure for both single-use bottles and cans of all materials, as well as refillable glass and some refillable plastic bottles. And this is important because glass is the most carbon intensive of the materials used for drinks containers, and even recycling it isn't the perfect answer to the problem. For example, for every 10% increase in recycled glass used, energy emissions are reduced by just 2.5%. Refillable glass, however, can reduce emissions by 85%. So in Germany, which has the world's largest deposit return system for single-use bottles and cans, they sell 42% of their beverages in refillable containers. And accordingly, in Germany, they litter, landfill or incinerate just 10 containers per person per year, while the equivalent figure for the UK is 115. The German system uses the same infrastructure to separate bottles into those for refill and those for recycling. And so a system looking to move more towards refill requirements in the future would be more cost efficient if it included glass bottles from the start. So for those who call for a consistent, interoperable system across the UK, the best and most efficient way to achieve this would be for the whole of the UK to level up and meet the scope of the Welsh system, with glass bottles included across the UK. And just to conclude, I just want to say it's great to be here in the Senedd for the first time, where successive ministers have set an example for the whole of the UK on ambitious waste policies. Indeed, on deposit return, UK Labour's 2019 manifesto explicitly referenced the Welsh Government's plans, saying that they would, quote, learn from Wales' example and will also back bottle return schemes, which is really encouraging. And as we approach the next UK general election, we hope to see legislation laid both at Westminster and in Cardiff in order to deliver a comprehensive return scheme in the timeline we need to help achieve our climate, waste reduction and nature goals. And I'm delighted to now pass over to Shan Sykes, who's here to share her experience of how important these measures will be for protecting the natural environment.
Hi everybody. I just wanted to talk to you about a trip I did a few years ago. When I was young, my mother introduced me to the great outdoors. I first was introduced to wild camping when I was 3 weeks old, and I was an adventurous soul. I loved playing in the sea, climbing the mountains, and from a very young age, she introduced to me that each and every one of us has a voice and we can make a difference in the world. And she encouraged me to write letters to the brands we wanted to boycott and say the reasons why. And she turned me into a little activist when I was really tiny. However, I lost sight of that and I just chased the money and status and ended up in advertising, working in London, working big long hours, and I was so detached from that little girl in North Wales. And suddenly I was asked to work for a brand I boycotted when I was 8 weeks old, and that was the catalyst to think, what am I doing with my life? So I changed career and I came back home to beautiful North Wales, and it was a real thrill just to be free, enjoy the stunning coastline. However, I was really saddened to see plastic bottles washing up on our beautiful beaches, and I didn't have that when I was a little girl, being a free-spirited soul. So I wanted to make a difference, so I joined an activist charity, Surfers Against Sewage, and I got involved activating community groups to do litter picks, and it was great, and it was a good educational awareness exercise. However, I felt we were picking up all this litter, washing up on our beautiful beaches, and I couldn't stop it, and I felt powerless. And I wanted to raise awareness for people in the urban cities to realise we need to protect our beautiful waterways. So I hatched a plan. I decided to circumnavigate around the whole of Wales, including all the waterways, so the canals, the rivers and the oceans. So what I wanted to highlight was what gets dropped in urban places, finds the water source and ends up along the coastline. It wasn't an easy task, so that highlights it was a 1,000-kilometre journey. We've got 8 firing ranges here in Wales, second highest tidal range in the world, and it was just after Beast from the East hit us. The whole expedition was single-use plastic free and it was solo unsupported. So it was an expedition and a half. That's all the kit I carried on my board for 2 months. And some of the toiletries were single-use plastics, and I even worked with companies to come up with packaging for my food, which was compostable in the good way. And from the back of it, they actually launched their own range of food, which was more environmentally friendly. The canals was real joy. It was very scenic, very beautiful, very serene. Camped out. However, I was picking up lots of plastic bottles, lots of wine bottles. It was hard going on my hands, very physical by taking my board off the canal onto the road and then back onto the canal. And I was looking at desperate measures to claw back time because I allocated 2 months to do this trip. At the end of the canals, there was just a road. So I had a 4-kilometre portage with all my kit. And then I got onto the River Severn. And it was a real joy speaking to the communities, because when I spoke to people, they remember the times of the River Severn. It was clean water. They enjoyed swimming in it. However, they were so saddened to see all the plastic, which is just floating on the rivers. And speaking to more people, they were all feeling inspired about my quest of a single-use plastic-free trip. And they all made pledges about changing to alternatives. So I was picking up a lot of litter, and there was a lot of cans, a lot of plastic bottles washing up. And then when I got onto the sea, it wasn't an easy task. I was paddling on the Severn estuary, and you can see on the screen how tiny I look against the bridge. It wasn't easy conditions, it was very challenging. We've got a lot of surf landings on the beach. However, I was really welcomed by the Welsh community. Everybody was cheering me on and supporting me, and it got healthy discussions because everybody was passionate about our beautiful waterways and they want to protect it, but they feel overwhelmed of where to start. it was just a wonderful opportunity just highlighting these issues, but the act of kindness throughout my whole trip was inspiring. I feel very proud to be Welsh, and there's so many communities doing great things, but we just need to champion them and empower them. Things which were washing up on the beaches were plastic straws, sanitary ware, but the big thing for me was the plastic bottles and cans, and this can be prevented by the deposit return scheme. And I think if we provide people with an incentive for them to return it back, we won't be seeing this on our waterways. So then we can protect our beautiful oceans, our stunning beaches of Wales, our lovely coastline. So after a 2-month expedition on my own, paddling across the whole of Wales, I returned back to where I started. It was an amazing achievement, and the community involvement was incredible, and I picked up shed loads of litter, but I also involved a lot of community who all felt inspired from my trip to make pledges against single-use plastics. And this is me speaking to the Coast Guard after being on the water for 2 months, finally calling it in, I'm off the water. So it was a real thrill, because there was sometimes I was on the water for about 14 hours on 8 to 10 foot swell in the dark. It was incredible, and I wish I could have carried on for the whole of Britain. After I finished my trip, I had obviously a lot of media engagement, and they were all keen to hear about my stories, but inspired me to lead Anglesey to be the first county to become a plastic-free community, which was incredible. And then I hosted the Royals for a beach clean, and I inspired lots of many people to make positive changes. So my question is, what is your pledge against single-use plastics? And finally, I want to say this talk is dedicated to my role model, my beautiful mother, who taught me to be an activist. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant. I don't think I've ever felt quite so inadequate.
I have to get you on the board.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. That is fantastic. Thank you, Shan, for sharing that with us. Let's leave the sort of panel portion for now. So what I will do is just to say diolch to all of our panellists. I'm genuinely inspired and informed as well as to the benefits here. I'd also like to say a big thank you to the volunteers for saying yes to that video and their creativity in some of the shots as well. Very impressive. And obviously to Delyth Jewel as well for sponsoring the event and for hosting us. It's clearly an incredibly important topic, but I do think that we have an opportunity to do something incredibly special here. And I think the enthusiasm that we can sort of sense in this room leaves me no doubt that we can do it, and crucially that we will do it. So let's keep up the momentum and get this over the line for the benefit of Wales and its communities. As I say, we do have the room until 2 p.m, so enjoy any teas, coffees. I don't know if we've got Welsh cakes, but try and sniff them out if you want to. There you go. And then we'll have an opportunity to catch up with you all separately as well. So diolch yn fawr iawn I pawb, a hyfryd gweld chi gyd.